Hello, everyone. I hope you're enjoying this beautiful day. And I was going to talk about something else today. I was going to talk about hope, and I will talk about hope. But today, I was reading some Christian magazines and other devotionals, and it led me to the topic of suffering. And we often wonder, why must we suffer? We ask God that question, why, Lord, is there suffering in the world? And I think we're all wondering, especially today, with the rise of this pandemic and all the social unrest in the country, why is there so much suffering? You know, Jesus said, in this life you will have trouble, but take heart because I have overcome the world. And he gives us a way to overcome. It might not be the way we choose, because really we want to take the easy way. That's our nature. We want things to be easy. We want things to go smoothly. And we don't want to really work too hard for that to happen. Kind of just want to happen. We want to let it happen naturally. That's not always the case. So I took some notes. And it says that, suffering is not an uncommon thing. Suffering is everywhere in this world. And what we do with it is the issue. How it affects us and how we react to it is the issue at hand. It can either make us better or it can make us bitter. We can become embittered with life, with other people, with our dire circumstances that we want to change many, many times. So we need to pray and ask the Lord, Lord, what do you want me to learn from my suffering? And I know suffering is different for all of us. All of us do not suffer the same way. Some of us have physical pain that we deal with every day. Many of us have the pain in difficult family issues with children, grandchildren that are not walking right, that have drifted away, that have turned against all the things that they've learned. And we suffer for that because our hearts break. So in asking the Lord, how do we handle our suffering? These are questions that really make us look deep within ourselves. And I read that the deepest things that we learn in our life have come from the deepest sufferings. That out of the deepest waters and the hottest fires have come things about God that I would have never learned about him. It teaches us about how God responds to the things in our life. But many people turn away from God in anger because the trials are too great and a loss of faith. But if we really want to learn the things of God, the deep things of God, we need to endure and have the hope that we are open to learn. We are open to have our character changed. And we know that that's not done easily because really, we don't really want to change, as it turns out. We think that we're pretty good, we're pretty okay. And I'm sure many of us are, but there's deep things in our hearts that are probably not okay with God. There may be a lot of anger. There may be bitterness, unforgiveness, resentments towards others that have hurt us, unanswerable questions like, why has this happened, Lord? How long will it last? How long do I have to go through suffering These were cries that David had in the Psalms, Psalm 42, Psalm 62. He cried out to the Lord that his sufferings were too much. They were overbearing. But at the end of every one of those Psalms, he says, "But yet I will put my trust in you." You know, we have to acknowledge that God is sovereign. He rules and reigns, whether we believe it or not. He rules and reigns in his universe. And in this creation, he is there and he is sovereign. He also has a purpose for us in our trials. He wants to accomplish something in us that we could probably never do on our own. And while the specific reasons for our sufferings may always remain a mystery, like, why, Lord, have I gone through this? We know that when we lean into God and not away from him in our pain, we can actually get a glimpse of what he might be doing. I've learned a lot through that myself. A lot of things in my life that I didn't understand. And now because I lean into the Lord and I press into his word, I want to know more and more and more about him. How he is, how he was with the people of old in the Old Testament, and all the disciples in the New Testament. You know, they all were martyred in the end, except for John. They gave their life totally to the Lord, and they did what was necessary to bring about the change, to bring about the gospel, to bring about the fact that Jesus came here in human form. The God of the heavens left his place in eternity, came here, became one of us, to dwell with us so we could know him, and eventually die for us because we couldn't save ourselves. That's how much he loved us. So getting back to the suffering, God suffered. He suffered for us. And even though our dreams sometimes disintegrate, we find that in Jesus, they are resurrected. He has new dreams for us. He has a new purpose for us. God uses suffering times in our life to refine our character, because we see that sin clearly defiles our character. And when we have flashes of frustration and anger at people around us even, or people that we don't even know, we might be angry at all the situations that are going around right now. Our higher calling is to really pray in those situations. Pray that people's hearts would be changed, and not to distract ourselves because we want to escape from all the suffering and pain. And another thing suffering does is it really highlights our own selfishness. We just want things to be great. We don't really want to suffer at all. We don't want to even confess that there might be sin in our hearts, like anger and unforgiveness. We make excuses. We want to blame other people for the troubles that we face. But that's not God's way. God uses our suffering to actually encourage others in their trials. He is the God of all comfort. And it says that the sufferings that we go through are actually good, because we can now come alongside someone else and comfort them in their sufferings and trials. And that really takes away our selfishness, that it's not all about us, it's about others. You know, a lot of believers speak of God's faithfulness in the midst of extraordinary loss and painful situations. I know that the God who has strengthened them will also strengthen you and me. When we read about their courage, I especially think of Joni Eareckson Tada, who had a terrible accident as a young woman and became a paraplegic and has remained that way for the rest of her life. But she has learned much about God. God was with her. God never left her. She's become a true disciple of Jesus. She speaks of his goodness, his faithfulness, his care for her, and she witnesses everywhere she goes. You can look her up on the internet. She's really quite a woman of God and a paraplegic all these years. And she could have really been bitter about that, especially being a believer. God, why did you leave me in this situation? But she overcame. And she realized that she became a different person. You know, trusting God when life feels crushing and not giving into bitterness. I'm reading this quote. Is a powerful witness. It strengthens us and it strengthens other people, because we are showing others that we are becoming better in the trial and not bitter through the trial. During this COVID-19 crisis, we have had a lot of opportunities to help others. And I think many of us have done that. We've lost some loved ones, people that we know of, even people that we don't know, to this terrible pandemic. It breaks our hearts. And we've had the ability to comfort other people. And we also have to know that God promises us that he will never leave us or forsake us. He tells us that in Deuteronomy and many other places in the Bible. I will never leave you or forsake you. And to be of good courage and to not fear, because he goes with us. He is in the trial with us, never abandoning us. Yea, though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Not only in this life, but as we leave this life into the next eternal life that's promised to us through Jesus. There's a scripture I'm going to leave you with. It's from Isaiah 43:2. Isaiah was a prophet. And it says here, when you pass through the waters, and they're difficult waters, I, the Lord, will be with you. And when you go through rivers of affliction, they shall not overwhelm you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, and the flame will not consume you. So God promises us that he is going to be with us, that he is going to always be there for us and never abandon us. So I hope that encourages you today. And if you like my channel, please like it, actually, and you can subscribe to it, and you will always be notified of the next chat, which is going to be on hope. The subject will be on hope. So God bless you. Have a beautiful day. And remember, you are never alone, that God is always with you. He's watching out over you, and everything that concerns you, he knows about it. So go to him and find refuge for your soul. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.